Welcome back. You're watching One on One. We're talking with actor Art Malik. Now, Art, a lot of your early top roles had you playing parts in the British Raj. It was almost like it was one after the other, all in one go. Any worry at that time that, wait a minute, this is going to put me into a particular bracket?
Oh, no, not really, because I think that, to me, the fact was that these were stories that were set in the subcontinent at a certain time, but there were, some of them were talking about something that happened in the 19th century. Some of it was talking about stuff that happened in the 21st century. So it really wasn't, for me, I wasn't really concerned about the fact that they were people that were Indian. Some had to speak with a regional accent. Some had to speak with the Queen's English. It didn't really worry me at that time. What I was really excited about was the fact that here we were seeing for the first time Asians playing Asians. I mean, I still believe, and I think the fact that Alec Guinness played Godbole in Passage to India was the last attempt at this idea that somehow you could brown up.
Yeah, right.
I don't think we can do that anymore. I sometimes wonder that it would be nice to be able to do that as an actor and as somebody who likes to play characters. It would be lovely at some point to sort of say, well, yes, I'd love to play Prince Charles just for the sheer hell of it, just to see how it would be like.
Whiten you up.
Yes, exactly. You do the whole thing. But I think what was exciting about that time was that here were stories that were talking about what a nation had done to another nation, which is what the horrors of imperialism. I mean, when I talk about my father and other of his friends who came to Britain at the time, they were damaged goods. They were not people who had the self-esteem that they should have had. And I think what's happened since then is that because of things like Jewel in the Crown and Passage to India at that time, a nation, because of Paul Scott and Ian Forster, an apology has been given, and an apology has been accepted, and now we can move on.
Now, in terms of the next steps for you, obviously Hollywood was there for you, True Lies, Bond movies, but suddenly you were playing bad guys.
Yeah, well, actually, I think the first thing was that when you play something like Harry Kumar or other of those things, and suddenly people are saying, "Oh, look, he's what a good-looking chap," and before you know it, you've given this badge, and you put the badge on, and it's called sex symbol, and you're just waiting for when you can take it off and give it to somebody else, and somehow there's a part of you that doesn't want to be that. What you actually want to do is you just want to sort of perfect your craft. So for me, the best thing to do was to turn my back on the mechanical medium for a while, after all the big hullabaloo about it all in '84, and think, right, in '85, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the theatre. And I went back to the theatre and I played Iachimo in Cymbeline, by Shakespeare. And that was the start of suddenly thinking, oh, well, hang on. If you can seduce an audience as an actor through the goodness of a character, and which is what Harry Kumar was, and come away with this sex symbol thing. Well, what about using the audience? What about using your craft again, but to seduce an audience into the sheer horror of a character? So Iachimo was one of them, and then I did a film in Australia about Charles Sabraj, who was an Indian mass murderer, and that sort of continued really, and then there was sort of other things that came in the way, and then culminating, I suppose, in True Lies, which was but to me he was a comic villain.
Which had you experiencing some fun at the security airports at the time, though, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it was after it came out. I mean, this was pre-9/11, and I was coming back into New York to actually play Ramzi Youssef, the guy who tried to blow up the World Trade Center towers the first time round. and I was coming back into New York, and it's that double take that immigration people do when they recognise who you are, and it was a sort of like, "Hey, you're the guy from True Lies, yeah?" And I went, "Yeah," and he goes, suddenly shouts again, "Joey, listen, terrorist! We got a terrorist here!" "What are you doing here, Mr. Malik?" I said, "I'm coming here to play Ramzi Youssef, the guy who He's playing another terrorist!" Well, I doubt if that would be the welcome I'd get
nowadays, definitely.
Nowadays at JFK. But it was, it was a great film. It was great to work with Jim Cameron. It was great to work with that kind of caliber of crew. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the most extraordinary men on the planet. He constantly keeps telling me I should have my own Indian restaurant. He's constantly
or corner shop.
Or anything just to kind of like get me thinking in a business kind of way. But at the same time, he has one of the most extraordinary controls over virtually every muscle. And so when, and the filming is about being able to sort of move one particular muscle. He's the only person I know that can do it. He can move. But anyway.
And they're bigger than most.
Yeah, and now he's gone on into politics, which I suppose was inevitable, really.
Now, of course, times have changed since September the 11th. The kind of the whole image of Islam, and as you say, there's been articles about Muslims who are prominent, the responsibility they have perhaps to portray a more positive side to the religion. Does that ever enter your life? Do you ever get pressured to represent the religion in any way?
Well, I mean, I'm constantly asked. I mean, on a day-to-day basis by people that you interact with. Now listen, if anybody who is a Muslim and thinks that it's okay to strap a bomb on himself and blow himself up, in the view that somehow this is going to change the planet, by all means do so. Really, absolutely. But go and find a field somewhere. Actually, why destroy the field? Go and find somewhere where you can do it. Leave a tape telling us why you've decided to commit suicide, but go and do it. Take a boat out into the middle of the ocean and blow yourself up. But the idea that somehow your protest can only have any real value is if it kills somebody else who's innocent. Then I'm sorry, no. Nowhere in the Quran does it say that.
What has been the biggest challenge for you then as an actor? What do you think is the biggest challenge you've faced?
I think for me as an actor was to be good. That was my challenge. That was all I ever did.
But it still must be difficult dealing with things like you had the publicity over Daniel Williams' death at your house. These kinds of things, when they end up in the media, it's like they're dragged out more than
that was walking out of a limousine at a launch of a movie, is you walk past all the photographers and camera crews and everybody. So on that particular day, the worst day that's ever affected my family, I wasn't surprised that there would be 300 people outside. I wasn't surprised at all that was what was going to happen. That was easy to deal with. You just come out with a press statement and you say it and they all go off. They're the same photographers that you saw at the premiere. They're the same film crews that you see. They're just doing their job. They just got the phone call, get outside Art Malik's house, something's awful happened. They sit there, they do it. I did the thing within 20 minutes of giving the release, they were gone. My problem on that day was how quickly can I get back to being dad, husband? That's what I wanted to do. The other side of it was just, you just deal with that. That's just part of it.
Looking forward, in terms of finding time for other things, obviously the work is quite demanding, but I think you seem to have found some balance in your life. You seem to find time to do the things you want to.
Yeah, I get to read, I get to stay at home, I get to garden, I get to do all the things that, I can do, because I'm lucky enough to be paid enough not to just feed the fridge, but with a little bit left over. And with that little bit left over, I buy time. I buy the time to do the things that I want to do.
Is there a particular role, is there a particular part you'd like to achieve before you sort of hang up?
Oh, gosh, that list is just so huge. Yeah, then that list will just keep, you'll be adding to it and taking away from
Lots
it.
of challenges still ahead.
Yeah, loads.
I mean, it's obviously it sounds a little premature, but if you were to leave a legacy behind, if there's a certain way you'd like to be remembered.
He tried to have an original thought. That would do me. He tried.
Art Malik, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.